Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sort through the noise, the articles, the research, and bring you the essential insights. Today, we're diving into something pretty significant happening in biotech, Cidara Therapeutics. There's a lot of buzz right now, mainly because of some really positive trial results for their flu prevention drug, CD388. It's leading to analyst upgrades, talk of buyouts. It's kind of a big deal. So our mission is to unpack the science, the market, the strategy, the risks, give you the full picture.
Yeah, and what's really grabbed people's attention is that the CD388, it feels like it could genuinely change the game for flu prevention, maybe even a paradigm shift.
Okay, let's unpack that. What is CD388 exactly? How is it so different from, the usual flu shots or treatments?
Well, fundamentally, CD388 is this new type of long-acting preventative. And crucially, it's not a vaccine. It's designed for seasonal flu, but also potentially pandemic strains. It all comes from Cidara's own tech, their Cloudbreak platform. It's a drug effort conjugate, or DFC.
Right. Non-vaccine preventative. That's the key phrase, isn't it? Most of us think vaccines get your body to react. How does this work if it's not that? And it's not just a standard antibody either.
That's where the clever part is. It actually links together two things. A known antiviral zanamivir, that's the drug Imrelenzi, and it links that to a specially engineered bit of a human antibody, the Fc fragment.
Okay.
Think of that Fc fragment almost like a biological backpack. It attaches to the antiviral drug. But this backpack does more than carry it. It basically tricks your body's natural recycling system into holding onto the drug for way, way longer.
So instead of lasting hours, it lasts weeks.
Exactly. Early studies point to maybe 6 to 8 weeks. So you get this passive, direct protection that starts working pretty much immediately. No waiting for an immune response.
And the universal aspect, flu changes every year. That's the whole problem with vaccines sometimes. How does CD388 get around that?
It targets a different part of the virus, the neuraminidase enzyme, Na for short. This Na enzyme is, well, it's highly conserved. It doesn't change much between different flu A and B strains. So think of the flu virus changing its code every year, but the Na enzyme needed for it to spread stays pretty much the same. CD388 targets that consistent engine part.
Ah, okay. So it doesn't matter what strain is circulating that year, theoretically.
That's the design. Unlike vaccines where you're betting on predicting the right strains.
That really does set it apart. It's like a single molecule doing double duty, direct antiviral plus long-lasting effect.
Precisely. And using zanamivir, which regulators already know well, was a smart move too.
Yeah.
Probably helps smooth the path for approval. And what's really exciting, beyond just the flu, is that this success kind of validates the whole Cloudbreak DFC platform. Meaning this master key approach they've developed could potentially work for other diseases too. They're already looking into oncology, for instance, so it's bigger than just CD388.
That's a really important angle. But back to the universal claim for a second. What about the really scary stuff like H5N1, bird flu? Any evidence it works there, people might be skeptical.
Yeah, good question. The preclinical data looks really solid on that front. There was a study, I think, published in Nature Microbiology back in March that showed it worked against a whole range of strains that included drug-resistant ones and, crucially, those highly pathogenic avian flu strains like H5N1.
Okay, so that addresses the pandemic potential concern quite directly.
It really does. It adds a lot of weight to the idea that this could be a tool for pandemic preparedness, not just seasonal flu.
So the science sounds impressive, but the real test is in people, right? You mentioned the Navigate trial results were unprecedented. What exactly did that study find?
Well, first off, the trial itself was really well designed. Large scale, over 5,000 healthy adults, none vaccinated against the flu that season, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled, the gold standard, across the U.S. and UK. Really robust.
And they were looking for prevention of lab-confirmed flu over 24 weeks after just one dose. What were the numbers?
They hit the primary endpoint, no question. The highest dose tested, 450 milligrams, showed a prevention efficacy PE of 76.1%.
76.1%.
Crap. And the p-value was tiny, less than 0.0001, which for listeners basically means the result is incredibly statistically significant, highly unlikely to be a fluke, just rock solid. They also saw what's called a dose response. The lower doses work too, just not quite as well, which is what you want to see. It shows the drug is actually causing the effect.
That 76% is, well, it's stunning compared to seasonal flu shots.
Yeah.
They often hover around 40%, sometimes much lower, especially for older people or those with weaker immune systems.
Exactly. It's a completely different level of protection.
But for something you'd give to healthy people to prevent illness, safety is absolutely critical, isn't it? Maybe even more than efficacy.
You nailed it. Safety is paramount for a preventative. And the Navigate trial delivered spectacularly well there, too. They described it as a placebo-like safety profile.
Placebo-like. That sounds almost too good to be true for such an effective drug. What does that mean practically?
It means when they looked at side effects, the group getting CD388 looked almost identical to the group getting the placebo, the dummy injection. And here's the really crucial part. Across more than 5,000 people, there were 0 drug-related serious adverse events, none.
That's huge.
It's incredibly important. It massively de-risks the drug. Minor stuff, like mild side effects or reactions at the injection site, happened at about the same rate as the placebo group. So getting that kind of clean safety data from such a large trial gives everyone, the company, regulators, doctors, a lot of confidence.
Okay, so amazing efficacy, great safety. What happens next? How does this get from trial results to actually being available for patients? What's the FDA path, and what's the market look like?
They're moving fast. Cidara already submitted their request for what's called an end-of-phase 2 meeting with the FDA. Think of it as a key meeting to agree on the roadmap for phase 3. What exactly does the FDA need to see to approve this?
And the plan for phase 3 is to focus on those high-risk groups, right? People who don't respond well to vaccines.
Exactly. The elderly, the immunocompromised groups where vaccine efficacy can be really low, sometimes just 5 or 10%. Showing a big benefit there would be very powerful.
Makes sense. Smart strategy.
And don't forget, CD388 already has fast-track status from the FDA. That helps speed things up. But given these phase 2b results, it's also a really strong candidate for breakthrough therapy designation, BTD.
And getting BTD would be a big deal because
it signals the FDA sees potential for a substantial improvement over existing options. It comes with more intensive FDA guidance and potentially an even faster review. It's a major validation.
Okay, let's talk market potential. Flu vaccines are already a big market, but this isn't quite a vaccine. How big could this be?
Well, the seasonal flu vaccine market is already huge, something like $9 billion globally now, maybe heading towards $14 billion in the next decade or so. But CD388 potentially taps into needs vaccines don't fully meet. Think about the millions who don't get adequate protection each year.
Right, the efficacy gap, the access issues.
And then there's the whole other angle, pandemic preparedness. Governments stockpiling for threats like H5N1, that's potentially another massive market.
I've seen analysts throwing around some big numbers. Peak sales projections like $2 billion plus just in the U.S., maybe over $5 billion globally.
Those numbers are definitely out there.
Yeah.
They're based on the idea that CD388 could command premium pricing, meaningfully higher than a standard flu shot, maybe over $180, $200 a dose.
Which you could argue is justified by 76% efficacy, season-long protection from one shot, especially for high-risk folks.
That's the argument, yes. Superior value proposition.
So how does it really stack up against competitors? And are there other funding avenues, like government programs?
Yeah, compared to vaccines, the advantages seem pretty clear. Universal action, no strain guessing, works independently of your immune system, starts working fast, and that high, consistent efficacy. Against antivirals like Tamiflu, it's totally different. Prevention versus treatment, single dose versus multi-day course. And compared to other new ideas out there, its targeting of that conserved NA enzyme seems more fundamentally universal.
What about funding like BARDA? That often comes up with pandemic preparedness.
Absolutely. CD388 seems like a perfect fit for BARDA, the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. Getting BARDA funding would be huge. It's non-dilutive, meaning they get cash for development and manufacturing without selling more stock. And longer term, BARDA could become a major customer, buying large quantities for the national stockpile. That guarantees revenue and validates its importance.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Beyond the drug itself, what about Cidara, the company? Their strategy, their financial health, and this buyout talk?
Financially, they seem to be in a pretty strong position right now. They did some significant fundraising over the last year or so, giving them a solid cash runway. Debt is low. R&D spending will obviously ramp up for phase 3, but they seem prepared. They also filed for flexibility to raise more capital later, probably planning to do it from this position of strength at a higher share price.
And strategically, that move to buy back the full rights to CD388 from Johnson & Johnson back in 2024, that looks incredibly smart now, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Transformational. They paid $85 million up front. Looking back, that seems like a bargain given these results. Real foresight from management. They also restructured last year to really focus resources on CD388, and they've beefed up their leadership team for this next phase.
You mentioned their other platform, the Cloudbreak oncology work. Is that just a distraction or does it add value?
No, I think it definitely adds value. It's like a hidden asset or a call option. The success of CD388 makes that whole DFC platform look much more credible. So their cancer drug candidate, CBO421, the chances of that succeeding look better now, too. If they partnered that out, it could bring in significant cash, potentially funding CD388 without needing to sell more stock. So it's strategically important.
Which brings us to, well, the elephant in the room, acquisition. Is Cidara likely to get bought out?
The odds certainly seem high now. You saw that wave of analyst upgrades immediately after the results. Price targets doubling, tripling. That shows Wall Street sees massive upside. Cidara now fits the classic M&A profile. De-risked, late-stage drug, blockbuster potential, huge market. Big Pharma loves that.
So even with the stock price jumping, a buyer would likely pay a lot more. We're talking potentially billions.
Yeah, analysts are talking about potential buyout valuations in the low to mid single-digit billions. That's a huge premium over its current market cap, even after the recent run-up. Potential buyers, you've got the big vaccine players Pfizer, GSK, Sanofi, Moderna, pharma companies strong in infectious diseases, Merck, Gilead, maybe even J&J wanting back in.
And investor sentiment seems to reflect that possibility.
Definitely. Sentiment is extremely bullish. You see technical signals like the Golden Cross suggesting a strong uptrend. Lots of institutions own the stock, and there's been insider buying. All signs point to high confidence.
Okay, but no drug development, no investment is risk-free. What are the main hurdles or risks people should keep in mind here?
The biggest one always is phase 3 failure. The trial will be bigger, longer, in sicker patients. There's always a risk the amazing phase 2b results don't fully replicate, or a new safety issue pops up.
That's the clinical risk. What about the FDA?
Regulatory risk is always there. The FDA could ask for more data, have manufacturing concerns, or just decide the risk-benefit isn't favorable, though that seems less likely given the current data. Cidara is doing the right things, engaging early, aiming for BTD, but it's never guaranteed until it's approved.
And the money. Phase 3 trials cost a fortune.
Right. Financial risk. Cash burn will go up. They will need more money eventually. That likely means selling more stock, which dilutes existing shareholders. The mitigation is their current cash, raising money hopefully at a higher price now, and pursuing that non-dilutive funding like BARDA or partnerships.
Then there's actually making and selling it, if approved. Commercialization challenges.
Huge challenges. Scaling up manufacturing for a complex biologic globally isn't trivial. Getting insurers to pay a premium price will require strong arguments, and Cidara doesn't have a global sales force. That's another reason why an acquisition by a big pharma company makes a lot of sense. They already have all that infrastructure.
So understanding those risks and how Cidara is trying to manage them is key to seeing the whole picture.
Absolutely. It's about weighing that incredible potential against the remaining hurdles.
So to sum it up, these Navigate trial results really feel like a watershed moment for Cidara. CD388 with its efficacy, safety, that universal approach. It genuinely looks like it could reshape how we deal with flu.
Yeah, the whole risk-reward equation has fundamentally shifted. The science works, the data is strong, the market is huge. It feels less like if this value gets realized and more like how and when, whether that's through Cidara taking it all the way or more likely through an acquisition.
It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? If we had something like CD388 widely available, a truly universal long-acting flu preventative, what would that mean for public health globally? Not just easing the annual burden of seasonal flu, but potentially defanging future pandemics. Something to ponder. Keep diving deep into the topics that capture your interest. Thanks for joining us.